Making It Into Heaven. From the video and book, It Makes Sense to Believe. Salvation. We must keep in mind that God our Father loves all of us more than we can imagine, more than the best dad on earth. He wants everyone to be saved and desires that no one will perish. The eternally dramatic question is, however, will we respond to his love with love? While this can be a terrifying situation to ponder, the reality is, according to church teaching, there are ultimately only two eternal destinations, heaven or hell, and it does us no good to ignore or deny this fact. At the same time, though, God has made his loving mercy easily available. The reason I wrote this book is out of concern for people's salvation, because so many are neglecting and forgetting Jesus. My hope is loved ones will encourage each other so they may be prepared when it is time to stand before God, the Father of Jesus crucified. We live in an era where almost everyone presumes they will go to heaven, whether or not they went to church and whether or not they got to know Jesus. People compare themselves to those who are horribly evil and conclude they must be good enough. After all, God can't send everyone to hell. But they never paid attention to Jesus' actual words, and thus never took them to heart. In a parable, Jesus said, "Many will come to the door and say, 'Lord, let us in.' But I will say, 'I do not know you,'" which is absurd, since Jesus is God and knows everything. Rather, he's really saying, we do not know him. Many people who are good in our eyes might never make it to heaven, as Jesus warned, "The gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." But how can this be? How can good people not be saved? We must understand that eternal life is entering into intimate communion with the Holy Trinity, God in us and us in God. Consequently, how can we expect to jump into intimate communion with God, having never spent time getting to know him? After living our lives as if God did not exist or Jesus was never born. Remember, too, how Jesus summed up all the laws of God. He taught, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment." But how can we be obeying the great and first commandment when we live a life neglecting and forgetting Jesus? When we pass churches daily without going in? When seeing a cross or crucifix does not cause us to pause and reconsider? When we ignore that loving relative or friend who regularly practices his faith and never question him about it? Moreover, when people do not know Jesus and their moral conscience has not been formed by the church, how frequently will they seriously offend God by believing what is bad is good and what is good is bad? This is a frightening situation for this world as well as their salvation. On the dire risk of losing salvation, many Catholics in my lifetime were lulled to sleep. So here we are on the conveyor belt of this short life, and in light of the crucifixion, we have to decide, is Jesus really who he said he was, Son of the living God who came to offer us true love and heavenly life, while saving us from sin, evil, and eternal torment? And is the Catholic Church the one church he established to guide, nourish, and inspire us along the way? In this video, I have given you the reasons why I am convinced, so you may believe with confidence. And it is important that we do believe. Jesus said, "The will of my Father is that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day." On the other hand, Jesus also said, "He who does not believe will be condemned, and he who does not obey the Son shall not see life." The choice is ours. Near the end of Moses' life, before he handed over leadership to Joshua, he made a final appeal to his people. "I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life, that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and clinging to him. As I stated in the beginning, we live in a time when it is truly easy to receive God's mercy. All we have to do is turn away from sin, attend Sunday Mass and unholy days of obligation, take God's words to heart daily, and go to confession periodically. This is just an hour on the weekend, a few minutes of prayer each day, a periodic trip to confession, and a couple of extra Masses each year on holy days. That's all it takes so we may be prepared to stand before God. That said, we should be aware that pursuing a personal relationship with Jesus can get confusing at times. In criterion number 3, central authority, I mentioned how people naturally disagree inside the Catholic Church as well as outside. In this video and books, I'm encouraging you to fully believe the Bible and the official teaching of the Church, especially as conveniently found in the Catechism. The confusing part is, however, not all preachers and teachers of the faith fully believe every one of God's words. Fortunately, in recent years, many faithful, intelligent Catholics have risen to proclaim the fullness of truth in ways that are very compelling and easy to understand. I have listed some of them in the resources section of the book, which can be downloaded for free. Therefore, since we have been blessed with the ability to learn and read, and have great access to terrific Catholic resources, we are obligated to know God personally and receive his saving grace. It is our daily choice to know or not know God, to be an active member of his family or not. Let me add a final note. If you already believe, then begin conversations with those you love and share this case and concern about salvation with them so they might choose to believe, return to church, and be ready to stand before God when the time comes. But if you are on the fence about Jesus and his church and are wondering if this is worth the effort, compare the benefits of embracing the ways of the world versus living for eternal life. For instance, suppose someone pursued a life rich in pleasure, and Christianity was not true. When he died and ceased to exist, it would be like he never lived because he would have no memory of his pleasures. Likewise, if he lived a good Christian life and it was not true, he would have no regrets because he no longer exists. However, suppose Christianity, heaven, and hell are true. Then in the end, he will either enjoy heaven forever or suffer in hell for eternity with never-ending regret. Remember what Jesus said about Judas. It would be better if he were never born. Jesus also put it this way: "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world but forfeits his eternal life?" Therefore, from a calculated self-interest perspective, as well as evidence and reason, it makes most sense to be wholeheartedly Catholic. God gave us free will, and the choice is ours. Take our chances and ignore Jesus, or practice the faith and get to know Jesus personally, the one who is the source of divine life.